Another stress factor. Get that out of the way. When you get ready to perform, you have to take into consideration that a lot of things might, but probably will go wrong. You've asked for it, it's coming. These are essential troubleshooting tips for live performance. Are you ready for that? That's today's video. Let's go do that right now. Hey, what's up and welcome. I'm in the kitchen and thank you for checking out yet another video. If this is your first time here, do not hesitate to click subscribe and hit that notification bell. Whenever I upload a new video, you'll be kept in the loop and you'll not miss out on anything. Do stick around till the end of this video. I'll tell you all about Discord. I'll tell you all about Patreon. I'll tell you all about the Mixer project as the prints have been ordered and I've set up the label. So Infinity Records will see its first release and that's on the 8th of September. So congratulations, you have finally nailed that first gig. You've gotten over your anxiety and now you are ready and prepping yourself to go play live. And then there's this voice in the back of your head going, but what if something goes wrong? And what is it that will go wrong? Is there a list of things that can go wrong? I'll tell you now, things will go wrong. There is no list and it's always something you never expected. Can you prepare for it though? Yes, you can. Now, before you get to the what happens while I'm performing part, what's gonna go wrong, let's go over certain things that you can do beforehand, before you even get to the venue. So there's a few things that you can do to eliminate said things, because there's happy little accidents, but to make sure that those remain small, there's a few things we need to just prepare ourselves for. A few things that I think that you should be doing before you even get to the venue. For one, see if you can get in contact with the promoter and talk to the promoter on what he or she thinks the idea of the event is going to be. What do they expect from the party? What do they expect from you? So that's also eliminating stress. Eliminating stress, very important. Another thing, if you speak to the promoter, see if you can get some contact of the sound tech involved or the sound company. Call the sound company. Ask those same questions. What do you expect from the room? What do you expect from the night or event or whatever? And explain to them what you're going to bring, how you're going to wire it up. So that's another stress factor out of the way. It's the day of the gig or the night before. Go to bed early. Make sure everything is done. Don't stay up late trying to perfect your set, trying to just wire up new equipment that you just bought because you're going to want to perform with it. No, bring what you are going to use. Do not bring anything that you think is needed for you to be a better performer, because make sure you have a bite-sized chunk. Practice it, practice it, practice it until you get sick and tired of it. By the time you get sick and tired of it, it's under your belt, which means you can focus on everything else than the live set while you are performing, because things will go wrong and then you have to deal with that. So if there's stuff you have to deal with already because you didn't prepare well, another stress factor. Get that out of the way. Another thing to also think about is to get there early. See if you can do a sound check, if that's at all possible. Can you get there, set up your stuff safely so you can just like get a hang of the room. Even when you get there and the sound is not already connected, which sometimes happens, you get there, you cannot sound check right away. Leave your stuff there, let the sound people arrange their stuff. First, you walk around the venue. Get a hang of its dimensions. Get a hang of all the other rooms. Talk to the different people. Get a hang of the whole venue. Make it your home. When you make it your home, it feels comfortable for you to be creative in that place. If you just walk in and you have to adapt to the atmosphere. I'm a pretty feng shui kind of guy, so if I don't like the dimensions or something feels off, I'm probably not going to get into my vibe. If I don't get into the vibe, you're probably not going to get into the vibe, and that's not what you want. So again, walk around the venue, get its bearings, find out where you are. Another stress factor out of the way. Don't overthink the show. Be open-minded to whatever is going to happen. Just let it sink in and be cool. Don't rush yourself into stuff. When you get there, your blood is pumping, your anxiety levels are high, your adrenaline is up. So in your mind, when you're thinking you are making slow switches, you're actually rushing. When you are rushing, nobody's going to latch onto what your philosophy on the pace of your set is going to be. That's not going to help you out. So again, take it calm, take it cool, start with bite-sized chunks. Don't enter all the sounds into the room directly. No one's gonna get used to what you're doing. The sound guy that you've spoken to a few hours earlier is also thinking, why is this different from what we have discussed? So easy going, nice bass. You'll feel it, and once you hear the angels singing in your ear, that's when you have entered the zone, and then you're ready for performance. When you're just starting out and you're doing a 1 hour set, this might even take up to 15 minutes. When you're a little bit more seasoned, it will take up to 5 minutes, but that anxiety is there. You have to just stay put. It's almost like when you're cycling or running, you know, you have to get into your second air. So it takes a while for you to just warm up and get going. And once you get going, you'll feel it. Something changes. I can't explain what it is, but you'll feel something change in the room with the people, and then you're ready, set, go. So another stress factor, out of the way. Very important, bring backup. Bring somebody that knows your stuff, and bring somebody that can help you set up. Mind you, one misconception: do not bring fans. Don't bring fans. Fans will try to help you out. They love the fact that they can roll with you, but they're going to stand in your way. They're going to offer you drinks and hang with drinks over your equipment. They're going to start asking you all kinds of stupid questions about your gear, and you're trying to set up, especially if you've got a small amount of time in a small room. You know, it's just not ideal. So get somebody to come with you, that even if you bring fans or people that you want to bring with you, or people that are very sympathetic with what you're doing, on the side. When I'm done, I'll talk to you, you know, and don't worry about it. You know, if they love you for what you're doing, they're going to give you room to shine, which means they need to get out of the way. So by the time you're done, then it's all cool. Have 5-minute chat sessions about what certain things do, but get them out of the way. Be as zen and as cool as you can. If you bring somebody that's clued on, help them to connect your stuff with you. If you've got people that don't know how to connect stuff, label your cables in stupid fashion. You know, this one goes in this, that one goes in that. So when they start talking to each other, you can help me out. Follow what it does. You see number one here, the number one here, one goes in one, two goes in two, and then they'll see that you're zoned in, and then it's a cool thing. So try to eliminate all these things that's not going to help you out. This is also kicking in a open door, but bring a flashlight. The amount of times that I got to a venue that was a little bit darker than I was, the kitchen club that we're doing in Worm is the same thing. I came late sometimes when already the show was going, so there's no sound check time. It's just me having the setup while another one is performing, and then that show is going on in Spaceland, so it's all dark, and I now have to find cables in a dark environment. So a small Mac light of some sort is going to help you out to find your stuff. Don't bring more stuff than you need, and package it away where you can find it. And that's a trick that I did. Believe it sounds stupid, but I did it. I put stuff in my bags in a spot where I can did it, and I went in with my eyes closed, seeing if I could find the stuff in the bag. It sounds stupid, but if it's that dark in the club, you might as well just close your eyes. If you can't find your stuff, you're going to start to panic, because now stuff doesn't work, and then people are like, I'm almost finished, are you ready? And you're like, I'm almost done setting up. It's an anxiety you don't want or need, and it's not going to help your performance. So pack everything away where you can find it, bring a small Mac light, and just like, if that Klingon is still there that wants to help out, you're like, I've got a job for you, hold the light and point wherever my fingers are. Try to make your setup as efficient that you can set up in 10 minutes. That'll help you out. Because the more time you have to figure out if there are things that are going to go wrong, which we're going to get into in the live segment of this video. And another tip I would say is bring a towel. There's nothing worse than you standing there being thirsty or being overheated. So water and a towel will help. The amount of times that I started to stress and I started to like sweat my ass off because it was like, oh no, stuff is wrong. You know, I had a set just like kill on me 10 minutes before it was go time while somebody else was performing, where the Octatrack just lost all its samples. It was not fun at all. Trying to connect stuff with wet hands, also not ideal. Happened to me, not cool. So bring a towel, bring some water. Another thing is have a backup plan. Have a backup plan. But we'll get to that too when I'm going to show you on what will go wrong and what actually went wrong in the live portion of this video. Are you ready for that? Yeah? Okay, let's go to the live set and let's see if I can screw up on purpose and see how you cannot have that happen to you. Let's go do it. Talking about stuff that can go wrong, there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong when there's different boxes involved. obviously, like for instance this. I'm me turning off the track. This happened to me before, so this is my track here. Cool. Okay, so then you know that I didn't do it on purpose. So that means that I still have this running though. See, this already works, but I can, which is cool by the way. The first thing that I will tell you is exactly what just happened. Now, the reason I'm working with different boxes, you can hear that if I'm starting the Akai MPC Live, the Octatrack will also run. Like so, right? So those two are daisy chained together, and then in a sense, the black box is also daisy chained to the Octatrack, which means everything is running in sync. Now there's a few checks that I have to do with this setup, because this is what the manual will tell you, that it works, that the way it's supposed to be working. Now, the MIDI comes from the Akai MPC. That goes through USB MIDI here. First thing, get a TP link in description below. It's an affiliate link, but get a TP link hub, because most hubs, even if you got the 5, 6, 7 hubs or whatever, it's to do with the small cable underneath. The cable needs to be thick enough in order for the data to go through it fast enough. So if you buy some computer hub that tells you it does everything, it doesn't really matter if you connect a printer to it, but once you have to rely on different things to work. In my case, it is a Launch Control XL right here. In my case, it is a Subsequent sitting over here. It is a Minilog XD sitting over here. So obviously, because I ruined one of the ports, there's this dual port in the MPC, but for some reason, because I've got this thing for a long time, when I pulled out one of the USB ports, it just came out. I was looking at my USB cable like this, and it was stuck on there, half of the port. So I've only got one USB port here, so it means everything has to go through this one USB port. So the hub, very important. Get good cables to work, otherwise you'll have it fail. Now, another thing that the Akai is notorious for is in the MIDI control page, whenever you start the MPC up, the MIDI learn page will be off. Now, this I didn't know in the beginning, so I had stuff mapped. For instance, this. But this enable mapping thing, you have to enable it, otherwise this. You can hear me do this, that wouldn't work. And I've got a lot of stuff mapped out. There's drums here as well. So those things are not going to be working. So I was panicking, because what the hell was happening, right? So, cool. So, there's a check that I do before I start. My sound check or line check. The difference between the sound check is you have a sound engineer there, so you can do it in the room. With a line check, he just checks if he gets some audio in there. He's not going to play the sound over the main speakers, but you have to do basically everything with your headphone. Now, another tip is get great headphones that you trust. Don't get DJ headphones, but get headphones that will resemble what your studio setup sounds like. So that's also another failsafe. I did it wrong in the beginning, so I ended up sounding differently. So that's another mistake that I made. So not cool. Now, the MIDI mapping should be in order. What just happened was that this Octatrack means that I can't fit in there. Usually it's alright, but due to traveling, it's been going in and out. So usually it sits snug over here. Now, the cable came out, which means the Octatrack just died. I've got drums coming from the Octatrack. I've got music coming from the Akai. So if I turn off the Octatrack altogether, this is coming from the Akai. So what will happen is if this stops and this keeps running, I got something like this. So I space out my different machines so that if one thing breaks down, there's always something that can keep running, and I can restart certain things if need be. So in order for me to play the whole song, this would be the whole song, right? And then I've got like the mini guitar coming MIDI from here. Also, this is also a thing that happens, you see? I don't know why that is, but from a minute you connect a USB hub to the Akai, it's hanging. So this means that this is something that I've had happen to me as well. I'm trying to get out of this page and the Akai thinks like, I know what you're saying, but you know, I'm just gonna get stuck. So now, a trick to overcome this thing is to have your different sounds be physically wired to the mixer, so that you don't have to rely on your MIDI mapping to do certain things. Because if the Akai hangs, it means it's trying to process the software. So adding more commands to that software is only going to just make this thing hang longer. So let's see how long it's going to hang for right now. But you see, I can't do anything with the Akai MPC at the moment. You can see this. This is happening to me at least 9 out of 10 times when I'm performing. So the trick is to not look at the thing and go like, oh my god, it will snap out of it eventually, and then you've got another break that you can do. Cool, because the crowd doesn't know it, and as long as the music keeps running, there should not be any problem. All right, so you can just go wherever you want to go. Now the trick to overcome this mistake is to have different sound banks already here. Drum banks, for instance. Now I'm on the regular page, which is the tracks page, but going down with holding function and going up and down, you can go into different modes. And I'm notorious for using the quick mute mode, which means that the 8 tracks that I'm using on the Octatrack are now all here. So that means that all the drums are off, all the drums are on. But it's all CIA work, because you can hear that if I turn all the drums off, you can still hear drums coming from the Akai MPC Live. And I don't want to do big things where if I turn something off, you'll notice it instantly, right? That's not something that I would want to do. So I can now debate to go in, make it drop, put the kick back in, and still wait for the Akai to come up. It's still not doing it, and it's because I have wired this thing to it. I know for a fact that that's what it is, you know? So I'm going to take this thing out of there, because it didn't do it last week when I did the video when I didn't connect that to it. It's just ridiculous how that works sometimes. But the Akai software can be notorious for being a little bit buggy, I would say. You know, I've heard of other people also talking on my Patreon page by what is happening. See, there you go. Now it's dancing, and there you go. It snapped out of it. So, if I didn't tell you anything, you probably wouldn't have noticed it, but now it's running again. I'm like, yeah, hallelujah, praise the Lord. Okay, so we're in business, right? It runs, it plays the music, but it just hangs occasionally. Luckily, the software is stable enough not to crash completely, like you can't do anything with it anymore. But that is what happened. Now, another thing that happened to me, I was playing Paradiso, and Quasar was playing before me. I can still vividly recall it. Now what happens is, I saw this Calc video. He works for Innovation, and he had a smart trick of connecting through MIDI to USB to something, a converter, to get the launch control to connect with the Octatrack Mark II, which is amazing. And I was like, okay, I want to have my first ever setup that I had. I had like 2 launch controls XLs. One was controlling the Akai MPC Live, and the other one was controlling the Octatrack. So I had like 8 faders here all mapped out to drums. And it worked. And I played in Hans Gaul in Cologne, and it was an absolutely amazing set, so it was all cool. So I didn't think anything of it, but you have to understand that sometimes the launch control can send out a MIDI command in some sort that you do not want. So what had happened, I blame Innovation. I'm not 100% sure what caused it, but the launch control sent, I'm playing at 2 in Paradiso, right? This happens to me 1:45 to 2. So I'm setting up, and I'm just like seeing everything works. And all of a sudden, for some reason, this thing sends a message to the Akai, to the Octatrack, sending every start and end point of every sample in that project to 0. So I'm now trying to just think what's going on, because it lights up, but it doesn't play. And all I hear is, and I'm like, oh no, are you kidding me? So I double tap I'll double tap, I'll go in, I'll look at the sample, I'll see the start and the end point. They're all there. Going through all the samples, it was all the same thing. Going through the banks, it was all the same thing. I'm like, okay. I had already prepared a different set because I think you should always be working on different pieces of music, especially, or save something in a different spot. I didn't back this thing up, so I was screwed at that specific point, but also having backups. Now, what happens also when you play a set is that the levels will change. This is set up now in a, I think it sounds pretty awesome, right? I mean, this could work on the floor, yeah? I've got a blinking kick, which means it's driving my analog desk a little bit, but nothing to really write home about. You know, it's nothing crazy. Which means that it's all cool, but I get enthusiastic and slowly I'm starting to open up this a little bit more, open up that a little bit more, open, you know, I'm trying to add stuff to the performance, which means it will change. But at the end of my set, if I changed anything here, or I played a filter, or I did something here, or I played something in, it means I'm saving the set that I'm playing, but also everything that I changed is embedded on there. Now the next time when I'm playing, ideally I wouldn't want that to happen to me again with all these different levels. So I save this set, I save it in two different spots. One that I work on, one that is my go-to kind of vibe, and then when I perform, I'll just rename this deep set 1 and play the deep set 1 or whatever. I'll play that set, right? So, and then you'll be safe and you can screw things up and you can experiment, because also performing means giving yourself the freedom to experiment and improvise. And if you are too set in stone, you're going to stand there like a mummy, trying to just like focus and make everything work the way it worked in the studio. And you have to understand that it doesn't really work that way. You know, people tend to demand different things from you at different gigs. So that's the thing. Now, what did I find out as well? There's another thing that I sometimes forgot in the beginning. I have, out of these 4 outputs that I'm using, out of the Akai, there's 6 outputs here. I'm using 4 on the Akai MPC Live, also the MPC Live 2. There's 6 outputs that you can use. Very cool. To utilize certain things, I wouldn't ideally, like you saw just happened. So I'm not going to extra put a filter on every channel that I'm going to use, put delay and stuff on there, because clearly the MPC Live, as cool as it can be and as long as it can play patterns, it's not equipped to really handle a lot of data at the same time when it comes to reverbs and filters and everything. So what I've done is I used the output 3 and 4 to send out different things. Sometimes on a different pattern. I even sent stuff there that is not being sent there on a pattern before. Pattern meaning sequences for you MPC people out there. So with the next sequence page, you can see I've got my tracks spaced out. This again is helping me fail-safe stuff. This is only a sort of like a backbone to whatever else can be added to it. Looking at the ABC structure that I have, I'm building a house, building the foundation, and I'm building walls and the roof, and then I'm starting to put doors and windows on my house. And in the C category, I'm putting carpet in there and paintings and wallpaper, so I'm spicing it up. But the trick is to not have your house collapse if you work your way backwards. So would a house collapse if there's no doors or no windows in there? No, it will still stand and hold its own. Would it collapse if the wallpaper and the carpet and everything and the paints were out there? No, it will still be there. So that's how I work it. So that means that I'm building a skeleton setup here and then add stuff to it from another box, from the Octatrack. So if something breaks down or I need to go somewhere, or I'm going to a different track, I have got the ability to play different things. Another thing you need to understand from the Akai MPC Live is that it acts as a DAW in a sense. So you've got these different tracks here, and in the beginning I was like, okay, you know what? I've got a Minitar bass, and let's add another Minitar bass later, but I'll mute it. This machine will remember that it has 2 different, even though they're muted, different channels for the Minitar that it needs to look at, which means that if you're trying to play program changes, it's probably not going to jump to the next program change because it's got a thing in its mind like, okay, this, for instance, on this the first pattern here, this bass that it's playing is my bass, program 12. If now I had another track with program 15 or 16 on there, that is also going to screw up what's happening. In the beginning I didn't know what was happening, especially the subsequent is suffering from that. It doesn't do the program change. So I'm like, why? Why is it not going to the sound that I want? And you have to just like have one track to one synthesizer is what I have found out. So also another thing to not screw up and not lose your sounds, as I call it, the ghost in the machine problem, is to organize your workflow. Ideally, you would like to have your tracks sit on the same spot in every song that you're doing. And my songs consist of 4 different sequences per track. Intro, then there's the whole music, then this is the drop. But the drop will act as also as a part of music, because if I don't mute my drums, it will still be the musical part of it. But if I'm muting all the drums, then it will become a drop, right? So if I'm going here, and then I need to do something else that I did not explain, but I will, let's do it. That's another mistake that happened. So I'm playing this drop, I'm coming out of this, so I'm building up the track, right? Let's so the first one is this. All cool, all nice, dandy, no problem. Stuff is playing, certain things you hear. There's something playing from my MIDI log XD here, as you can hear. Okay, then I'll go to the next page. Levels. So, subsequent, boom, and I'm playing and the crowd is going for it and they're really enjoying the vibe and the flow and everything is all nice and dandy. And then I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna make my big impact. Let's go. So 1, 2, 3, I'm already arming the third place where my drop is, and then this happens. So I've got all my tracks armed to go in mute, and then it goes to nothing. Luckily something's playing here. But now what had happened is I am sticking some sounds out of output 3 and 4 that are going into my Acid Box 3, Wicked Machine by Erica Synths, absolutely nice. It is the Polyvox synthesizer filter that they have recreated, but the output goes back into the Akai MPC Live. And you savvy folks out there already know the screw up that I did. You have to then put the MPC back in recording monitoring mode, otherwise you will not hear the stuff that I have looped outside. So now, and this part is kind of an important part in the music right here, right? So if this doesn't play, so you can see it come in here. So now I've got this fail-safe thing where if I'm setting up, and I told you about the 10-minute setup. This is not a hard setup to set up because it's in the case. There's a stereo coming out of here. There's a stereo and a mono coming out of here. So that's 2, that's 3, that's 5 in total. Then there's 7. This goes into the, so this is my Decimate Tetra, goes into the Octatrack, then comes out of the stereo, so I don't really forfeit any more channels on the desk. This stereo, this mono, so yeah, if you count it fast, you know that I've got 1 channel too many. But what I've done is that I do play the effects of the black box. I'll play them in mono. I'll just don't have to play them stereo. And then open the send and send them back to the Strymon and to the Boss effects, delay and reverb, so they'll be stereo anyway. And for a white noise, how stereo do I want it to be? Really, it's a C category kind of vibe. I don't want to forfeit anything, unless I've got a bigger mixer, which I do not want to bring. So you can understand my train of thought here on how I work that. So okay, so I was losing the sound and I was thinking like, okay, what is happening? By then I did not have the Korg mini log with me that I was playing the strings, as you can hear. So if I'm turning this down and playing this, this is basically what you hear. And everybody's like, man, you really built me up. I'm really into the zone. Where's the rest of the music? I mean, there's nothing that you can do then. There's nothing here, you know? Yeah, there's drums. So this I've embedded now. If for some reason I forget it, I never forget it anymore, obviously, because now you know your set a little bit better, you know, to really work that out. So, okay, nice. And then you can build up that vibe. Filter down, open this up. Arpeggios. You know how I love my arpeggios. Kick in. Now another thing that can go wrong, that a lot of people do wrong, that I did wrong as well, I've got two places where I mute my kick. I don't like these strings at all, the XD, but I'll fix them. They're a bit plasticky or a bit, anyway. So I've got my kick here because, as you can see, the mixer's all the way over on the side. Now I've got this thing where if this is the first track with the kick, then obviously on the mixer it's going to be the same first thing. But if sometimes I'm over here playing something on the XD, it would mean that I'm muting the kick drum. Now, I don't know, I've done so many different mixes already and different sets. It still happens to me. So I'm like going in with all the drums. I'm like, woo, let's go. Drum roll, building it up. Going into my next sequence page, and now I'm really building up this big wash of sound. And then I'm going like 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go in. No kick drum. And that's a big part of what needs to happen, right? So, do the break again, look at it, and think like, okay, take this off, go in, 1, 2, 3, and again. And then you do it again. But those are things that are nerve-wracking and make you insecure when it happens. So to get your bearings within your own sound, very important, but it could happen.
You, sir, are an idiot.
The thing that have happened with the Octatrack, where it was the Octatrack Mark 1, by the way, so I don't know if that's different from the 2, but that was just what happened. And I never had it happen to me since, right? Another thing that I've seen is that the black box and the MIDI fighter work, they really work hand in hand. But sometimes there's just not enough juice coming out of the black box for some reason. So I have to just take out the USB and place it back in. So you can see that everything that I think is stable is embedded. I've never ever in my life had a problem with MIDI guitar. Never. It never gave me any grief. So those things I have got embedded. I don't need to do everything that I'm not so sure about or that I have had act up at some point, one way or another. I have mapped it away so that I have installed it in a way that I can get to it easily. What else? What else can go wrong? Levels on your mixer, also something that you need to just take care of. You know, sometimes the room monitors will be amped up in a way that you don't notice that you are off balance, like this. You can be off balance a little bit with the mixer, which means that one side of the club is getting a little bit more amplitude than the other side of the club. So there's a few tricks that you need to just like look at before you get going. And other than that, don't plan too many things, as I said, because the more you plan, probably the more you're going to be standing there like a DJ. There's not much that you can do. There's different ways of performing, obviously. Some people just want happy accidents to happen. But, you know, happy little accidents are only cool if they are as little as they would ever be. Not if they are starting to just like bug you or if stuff happens. Like, for instance, I don't know why, last time I was trying to just turn on the, the big sky, and it was going on and off and on and off and on and off. So I was like, okay, so I didn't know what happened there. So I played my set without reverb because it kept turning off like this. And I was like, okay, so maybe I need to read the manual, but it didn't do it to me before. And then it did it, and then it didn't do it. So also knowing your equipment that well that it would work is also a great thing. Now, I've got the Valco. That is the KGB distortion, keyboard, guitar and bass. So they have made this to go on different things. I'm going to work out how that works. But everything in chunks, yeah? So the kick will go into the Velcro and then out of the Velcro onto the desk. I'll make things very simple and understandable for myself so I don't get lost. I don't want to give myself ample room to make mistakes, which some people would like. Other people are very like improv-y. They'll just do whatever happens and we'll see how it goes. And that's also a thing. It's also a cool vibe to try out and to check out. I, however, want to reproduce the songs that I make. So I have certain things that need to do that same thing that I want that's on the record. Now, how I go about it is that certain things are being played. I'm pretty much like how Michael Jackson or Mariah Carey or Beyonce do their sets. If there's a certain note that they are sure they are not going to make live while they're dancing and jumping around with all the backup dancers, Michael Jackson when he was alive did that also, they will have something that came from tape. So the highest notes that needed to be in key came off tape. Excuse me. Now what I've done is that on the different sequences that I've got here, certain sequences have got the preset loaded, but there's no MIDI information coming from it, so I can play them. Dying here. I can play them, but that means that I can just be a little bit virtuoso and just do a little bit of solo, blah blah blah. But from the minute I go to the next sequence, the sequence stuff that's on my track or on my record or on my release or whatever is going to come in recognizable. It's going to jump to that preset, and you know, it's a cool thing. So that's a preparation thing that I do where I can be live. I'm not the greatest like concerto pianist in the world. I can manage and I can play something convincingly, but can I just play solos like, you know? No, I cannot. So I'll have to make do with what I can, but I do want to be live because speaking with Robert Babich a few years ago, he told me, listen, I love this way your set is, but what I would want is a little bit more improv. He's actually inspired me to just do that. I'm doing it now. I'm playing. I'm getting more ballsy. I'm trying stuff out. But in the beginning, I was like wielding the filters and playing the program stuff. But it wasn't really that different from a DJ set, mind you. Because to go back on topic to what this video is all about, try that out though. First, do something that works. Don't go there and start to experiment with stuff that you're not sure about. First, try out just wielding a filter here and a filter there. And, you know, I've got like drums that I can play. So I'm live. I'm doing stuff live over the top if stuff plays. Cool, you know what I mean? It's simple, but you can just map it away. So one shots, loops that can play, atmospheres that can play, you know, it's a thing. So you can keep it simple and then work your way up from that, because once you physically played something live, you get more ballsy to try something else live, you know. And yeah, sometimes I'm off key or I hit the wrong note, but you know what? People love for you to take a chance, and when you get going and get more experience, more and more and more confidence will help you to become a better live artist. Now, as I told you, these are a few things that I have seen happen with this setup that can go wrong. There's a million other things. Let me know in the comment section how you think about it, how you work your set. And yeah, I hope that this is helpful for you. Don't be a stranger. Let me know what's up. Last week I said Michael Smorenburg is the new patron for this week.
You, sir, are an idiot.
That should be Marcel Smorenburg. So Marcel, I'm sorry. You know, sometimes I don't know what happened. Marcel, welcome to Patreon, as well as Oder, Snare, and Ruffian, who are patrons for this week. Thanks, guys, for checking this out, and thank you for hopping on board the Analog Kitchen train, which is cool because what is happening? Well, for one, NFNT, which stands for Infinity, which is my label, it's up. I've planned the new release. I've got a cool distribution deal with Dig This in Germany. They're going to distribute the track. Infinity is all cool. It's really, really cool. It's going to be available the 8th of September. That's in a few weeks, which means I really need your guys' help. You know, when it comes out, I need you to all go and support that vibe, because it's not just a label for me to shine with my music. No, what I've done, and I can tell you now, with the patrons, with the people that I speak to on Discord weekly, we are now in a spot where everybody's helping each other out with the music. So I have signed music of patrons that and just people that are making cool music. So the next release is going to be Master D's EP. He's made 3 tracks that are absolutely amazing, which I'm going to release. But that's going to be, I think, around ADE or after the Amsterdam Dance event. My first EP is going to be Fear of Darkness, which is probably the track you heard in the intro of this video. That is going to just like be released. It's going to be a week of exclusiveness on Beatport, and I need you to just like go and stream it and buy it and share it, and you know how this goes. But by that time, I'll make a deal with you as I go like, no, everybody this weekend go and buy it. You know what I mean? So we can get this thing, which is a community-based endeavor, to get that show on the road. Well, which brings me to Patreon. This is one of the things that I do with the patrons, right? If you want to get closer to me, you've got questions, more questions than you have answers. A good thing to be is to just like tap into Patreon. You won't be breaking the bank, and you can ask me stuff, you can ask the other people in the community stuff, and it's really, really cool, because I can imagine that questions like the ones that popped up today, that's actually a question that came up on my forum, on my Discord forum, where people were asking like, okay, I am contemplating to perform, but I'm not so much looking forward to all these mistakes that can happen. So I hope that this video is helpful. This is the kind of stuff that we talk about, you know what I mean? It's just like trying to get into the zone. You can throw your demos in there and people will actually comment on it in a respectful way. You can talk about gas, talk about gear, talk about what to buy, what not to buy, talk about packaging, fly casing, wiring, whatever you want. Anything to do with synthesizers, we are talking about it as much as other things as well. And after this video premiere, if this is the premiere you're watching, then there is a video chat. We talk shop. We talk about, what I just spoken about. So that's patreon.com/analogkitchen. Ferry has ordered the double prints. There's going to be one print. This, I'm talking about the mixer. There's going to be one print, and then we're going to have our fader section on top of it, which means you can decide or debate how many faders you would want. The master section would mean there's this one master section on which we have the transformers for a certain sound. There's a transformer-based analog mixer that we're building, and then we can just now decide how many faders you could have next to said master section, which is cool. 3 auxiliary sends on there, which is cool. I think we're going to do something with like the launching of the solos and stuff, so you can get to decide what you can play in solo. So it should be a performance mixer, where when you see me do a lot of stuff on my equipment, that stuff can be taken away. So you can just like do some mutes, do certain things, do certain solos, and work your track from there. So this is one hub that you can need to go to in order to make it work. Yeah, mono stereo switching on each channel if you got mono synths that you don't want to now solder a new cable, because otherwise it doesn't work on the thing. So it's going to be a hybrid between a studio mixer and a club mixer. I do think that there's a few things that I saw on the Zone that I liked, but there's also a few things that I like from a studio mixer that I like. So we're all going to morph that together. It has been a tedious process, not tedious so much, but it's been, you know, we've been working on like forever. But now the prints have been ordered, so that means putting the parts to the print, testing it out, and that process is going to be, just follow it in the next couple of weeks. There's going to be proof and pictures, obviously, because otherwise I'll just be talking about it. I'll show you what that is. Now, if you have made it this far into the video, you, sir or ma'am, are an absolute superstar. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you next week on another video, I think. Did I miss anything? Probably. Okay, thank you for watching. I'm Analog Kitchen. Keep watching this space. I'll see you next week on another video. And